Hey guys, it's Gawain, and today we are going to be taking a look at perhaps the most versatile grenade catcher in the game, Wamai. Wamai is a 2-speed 2-armor defense operator that specializes in grenade and projectile denial, a bit of site setup, and sometimes a bit of fragging. Wamai has two very good primary weapons, decent secondary gadgets, and a very good primary gadget. Good Wamai players will use sneaky gadget placement and angles to frustrate their enemy whilst picking them and their gadgets off one by one. So let's learn how to play him. Wamai is equipped with his magnetic frisbees, of which he gets a total of 6, but not all at once. He will start with one in the prep phase and gain one every 40 seconds, so he will gain his second at the start of the action phase. These magnetic frisbees are throwable discs that will stick to any surface except other gadgets. Once thrown and stuck to a surface, any attacker projectile that is listed on screen now that enters its 3.5 meter radius and line of sight will be pulled towards it. Once the projectile reaches the disc, it will then detonate and the disc will self-destruct, with the exception of Gridlock's tracks, which will just be dropped to the floor after the disc self-destructs. It's also worth noting that only one of Fuse's explosive pucks will be caught in one magnet. If a projectile with a timed detonation, such as a frag grenade, enters the radius, its timer will be reset and the projectile will detonate at the disc like everything else. The purpose of the magnet system is to catch projectiles and move them into a preferable position for the defenders, not to destroy them, because everything still detonates. Due to the frisbees being relocation gadgets rather than projectile deleters, they are relatively small, so you can get creative with their placement. I find it's best to catch the projectile sooner rather than later, so putting your frisbees on doorways or concealing them behind an object in front of a doorway or window to catch the projectile before it can really get into the room is a good idea. If you're trying to cover a deployable shield with a frisbee, definitely place it as far forward as possible without it being seen so that when a frag grenade comes by, it won't destroy the shield. In terms of general placements, I place my first frisbee in either the sneakiest spot or the furthest spot away from where I'm going to play. My second frisbee is covering one of my teammates or the main door/window. My third is to protect myself, and my last three I use reactively. Because you get your discs throughout the round, they are single use. You can use them reactionarily and place them where the attackers are pushing from. If they've opened up main breach, then maybe throw a disc onto the surrounding area to catch an incoming flashbang or smoke grenade. Alternatively, you can lock down an area by yourself, such as garage on Clubhouse. If you have the gun skill, you can contest areas and use your gadgets to prevent yourself from being grenaded out or flashbanged. Overall, I find placing your magnetic frisbees lower or higher to be the play, rather than on your eye level. This is because they pull the projectiles further out of the way of you, the player, and it makes it harder for them to get shot out. If you place a frisbee lower down, then you are less likely to pull a flashbang up and get everyone in the room flashed. But if it's higher, then that creates more distance from you and a frag grenade. Learn what works for you and the position you or a teammate are playing. Be creative and be flexible with your gadget placement, and it's okay to hold on to a disc or two if you don't have anywhere to throw them immediately. Wamai's primary weapon options are the AUG A2 assault rifle and the MP5K submachine gun. His secondary weapon options are the Keratos .357 handgun and the P12 handgun. I personally use the AUG paired with the Keratos. The AUG is a relatively heavy hitting rifle that allows you to take gunfights from range, and the Keratos is a revolver, so it has increased soft destruction, allowing you to create lines of sight and footholds around sight. I like the AUG because of the consistent fire rate and damage on it, as well as the big mag size. Put a one-time scope of your choosing on it and you should be good to go. As for the MP5K, it's got a fast fire rate and low recoil, making it a headshot machine. If you use it, you will see why the 1.5 times was removed from it. I find its personal preference for Wamai's primary weapons, as both of them can be good and neither of them have access to any zoom optics. As for the Keratos, it's got low recoil and okay iron sights, but as aforementioned, it's the increased soft destruction that attracts me. The P12 can be a reliable backup weapon, but so can the Keratos as well, and that has the advantage of being able to make sightlines and soft walls. Go for your preferred primary weapon, paired with the Keratos .357. In terms of secondary gadgets, Wamai has access to 2 impact grenades or 2 proximity alarms. Both of these can be a great addition to Wamai's kit because with the impact you can create rotate holes and destroy OSA shields, but with the proximity alarms you can alert yourself and your team to the enemy's location. I personally take impact grenades because making rotate holes on sight is important, and destroying OSA shields can be very useful when she's taken a power position with her shield. You can also impact trick the wall if necessary. As for proximity alarms, hiding them in sneaky spots or in places where the enemy will have to take their eyes and crosshairs off where you are makes it easy for you to swing them. It also creates a general sound cue for you and your team to be alerted to the enemy's position and to play off of. It's personal preference for secondary gadgets, I just prefer the impact grenades. To start off the prep phase, make a rotate hole with an impact grenade if you need to and have them, before placing your first frisbee in a sneaky spot or in a spot away from where you plan on playing. Next, reinforce, reinforce, reinforce. Odds are your team, like seemingly the rest of the Siege player base in my games, has given up reinforcing sight, so you will have to do a lot of it yourself. It's also good to reinforce anyway to allow your teammates with more sight setup or gadgets to place to do their own thing whilst you reinforce around sight. Make any sightlines or footholds with the Keratos if you need to or want to, and then move into the position you plan on playing in the action phase. To kick off the action phase, place your second magnet in another position you won't be able to get to as easily during the rest of the action phase once things start to get opened up. Try to play passively whilst waiting for your next couple of frisbees to generate by cycling through cameras and calling out for your team, and only taking gunfights when necessary. Place a disc to protect yourself and then wait to see where you should put the next couple. Taking gunfights as Wamai isn't necessarily a bad thing because he has good guns, but dying too early will mean you don't get as much value out of your gadget as you could. I tend to hold tight angles to try and get easier kills than swinging on enemies. Use your remaining impact grenade to destroy an OSA shield or even impact trick a wall if you need to. If you can, try and replenish used magnets by throwing ones in your pocket, either exactly where the one that just caught the grenade was, or in that general vicinity to try and catch more projectiles coming that way. Stacking magnets isn't advised because if one catches a frag grenade, the rest around it will get destroyed when that grenade detonates. If you have a Jaeger or a Rooney, place your magnets in the areas that their gadgets aren't covering to get maximum coverage. Feel free to roam a bit and rotate around behind the attackers if you need someone to get an easy pick or two, but other than that, try and anchor so you can use your gadgets on sight. Wamai has a few counters, these being IQ, Twitch, EMPs, and Zero. IQ can detect your frisbees through walls and floors and will be able to shoot them out if exposed to a soft surface. To prevent this, try and place your magnets in spots IQ will have to expose herself to your team if she wants to shoot them out. Twitch and Zero are pretty similar as both of their gadgets' lasers are able to destroy your discs. You can't do much about Twitch drones other than shooting them first, but Zero cameras will be relocated to your frisbee's location if caught in projectile form. EMPs can disable your magnets, but they won't be used to specifically counter you. They will only be disabled when the attackers try and disable something else, like a mute jammer or Cade Claw, so there's not much to worry about really. Place your magnetic frisbees in locations that are either sneaky or hard to shoot out so that the attackers will either be forced to throw their projectiles into your gadget or waste time trying to clear it. Use the Orge 2 for a consistently good weapon that can be used at all ranges. Consider placing one of your early magnets outside to catch attackers really off guard, wasting one of their projectiles. Use the Keratos for its increased soft destruction, so you can do a bit of extra sight setup if needed. Learn how to be flexible with your gadget placement by keeping 1 or 2 discs in your pocket so you can react to the enemy's position. Overall, I'd say Wamai is a middle-of-the-road operator in terms of difficulty in my opinion. He's got easy-to-use guns and secondary gadgets, but his primary weapon can be tricky to get the maximum value out of, which bumps the difficulty up, I find. Learn where and when to use your magnetic frisbees, which primary weapon works best for you, which secondary gadget works best for you, and you are sure to become a pretty decent Wamai player. Thank you all for watching, I do hope you enjoyed. If you found this guide helpful in any way, shape or form, please do consider subscribing and sharing it with your friends, as that does help grow the channel, which is very much appreciated. As always, most of the clips you saw in this video were taken from my Twitch stream, link will be on screen and in the description. We're going to be going back to the one video every 2 weeks now, just to save me from death by university work and self-imposed deadlines. Nock will be next for the Siege series, and I will see you all in the next one. Goodbye.